8 kilometers east to point zero, which is where our journey east begins. That is an incongruity. Another incongruity is, if you, especially visitors may want to know that Nepal has the highest concentration of aircraft within a developing country, perhaps in the world. Meaning there are the northeast of India, in Uttarakhand. You do not find it. So this is an incongruity. Why? Because of the issues of road infrastructure. The other incongruity is we suddenly are at a point of explosion of road infrastructure, but the quality of the road infrastructure is in question. District roads are mostly designed by the bulldozer or a backhoe operator rather than engineered. But there are some good roads coming up as we speak. So this is the situation we have right now, and I will end by referring specifically to Kathmandu Valley. Kathmandu Valley is the largest urban concentration in the entire 2,500 kilometers of the Himalaya. The population now is 4 million, and before we know it, it could be 6 million. The scale of human distress in terms of public transport is extremely high. So there is clearly a need, as I see it, for investment everywhere, for easing the pain of the public, number one, for improving the economy, improving its efficiencies, and the last point about the transformative moment we are in, the links to the north, which are now being added to the links to the south, and everything is being given more girth. How to do it in a way that the economy prospers, the environment is protected, as well as the fact that heritage, because Nepal is a country of heritage, how do you protect all while moving ahead with road infrastructure? This is what we will be discussing, I hope, in context of presentations being made. Now, without further ado, may I ask Mr. Bandyopadhyay to make his presentation.
Very good morning, Kanakji, Honorable Minister in Chair, Mr. Sigdel, my fellow panelists, and ladies and gentlemen in the audience. It's indeed my privilege to be with you this morning. I'm going to actually talk about waterways this morning. It's not because it's a cool thing to do in South Asia, because it has almost become an imperative for all the South Asian countries to diversify into more greener and energy efficient mode of transport. And as you must have seen in the presentation and as you must have heard, this country, the whole transport matrix is completely unbalanced because it's fully reliant on roads. If you are frowning how a land-linked country, I like that phrase, sir, like Nepal, can actually augment its inland waterways, we have to, I think, enlarge the vision from inland waterways to multimodal. And I will tell you why. What's happening in this region is we are facilitating India and Bangladesh to promote a shared vision of developing a waterway corridor linking National Waterway 1 in India, which is Ganges, with National Waterway 2 in India, which is Brahmaputra in northeastern part of India, seamlessly through the Indo-Bangladesh Protocol route. This is actually a 4,000 kilometer corridor, which has all the potential to become the future growth corridor of South Asia. Why I'm saying so? Because this is just not dredging these rivers and developing the fairway, but both of the countries are actively looking at several other issues, including developing multimodal river ports all along the way, both on National Waterway 1 and National Waterway 2, and similarly in Bangladesh, also developing logistic clusters around these ports. And what has happened, we have many of you from China, what have happened in Yangtze and its tributaries? This system has exactly the same potential. Now, how Nepal could benefit out of it? And it's great that Nepal has already realized that it can actually benefit out of this initiative. And a high-level task force has already been constituted in the government, which is actively dialoguing with India and I believe lately with Bangladesh also. As Mr. Sigdel mentioned, you have at least 2 rivers which are linked to this system both on National Waterway 1, Gandaki, which is of course known in India as Gandak, and Koshi. And in both these rivers, India is also having a plan for improving the navigability. So that's a great boon for Nepal, I would say. But it doesn't stop there. There are many other opportunities for now Nepal to link to the regional and global supply chain through this river to India and Bangladesh, but also to the ports. Ports of Kolkata, which this river system connects, Chittagong, in Bangladesh also this river system actually connects, and then through coastal shipping to other ports. As you know, coastal shipping also is the new thing which is getting a lot of boost between India and Bangladesh. We, along with IFC, has actually worked on developing a new supply chain which will be afoot by 2021. This is to help Nepal import all its containers from Kolkata port through a multimodal journey, starting from Kolkata, precisely the Gardenry Jetty in Kolkata, to a new river port which is being constructed opposite Patna on National Waterway 1, and from there transferring to a truck to come to Birganj. Similarly, there are two other projects which are being discussed actively with Nepal for the benefit of this audience, as two new river port terminals are coming up on National Waterway 1, which are close to the Nepalese border. One is Sahibganj multimodal terminal, which will be completed in May, will have the capacity to handle both bulk and containers, and will be within 120 kilometers from actually Biratnagar ICD. And similarly, there is a third terminal, Ghazipur, which is between Varanasi and Sahibganj, which will be also developed in a couple of years, which is close to Nepalese border. Let me also talk a little bit, because this is a summit on investment summit. So what are the opportunities for private sector participation or maximizing finance for development? If you look narrowly again into the waterway sector, there has not been many private sector development for waterway as such development, fairway development or dredging, except a few in Latin America and recently in Ukraine. There has been some experiments in Europe in 1800s. But the private sector opportunity lies actually in ancillary facilities, in those terminal development, in developing those logistic clusters. And I believe that is the future of South Asia, that is the future of Nepal, where even if the river terminals which are being constructed, the private sector can come in as a concessionaire for 20 or 30 years, can bring in equipment, and can also foster the whole logistic development around those terminals, including constructing warehouses and many other, goods, the export and import goods processing zones.
You have 2 minutes left, Mr. Bandyopadhyay. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, I'll just finish. So I think here lies the opportunity for private sector to come in. The opportunity for private sector also to come in is linking this various infrastructure, because the vision has to be, as I was mentioning, multimodal in nature. And that could be any mode, road with rail, rail with water, even with air. It's great to see that you are actually developing a new international airport in Viratnagar, which may also have some freight potential in future. And I think that is the way to go in Nepal, to bring in private sector for developing those ancillary infrastructure, those connectivity structures, those logistic nodes, and not just looking exclusively on the transport infrastructure like roads and rail and waterways as such. I'll stop at that, sir. Thank you.
That's very good, and we can come to a discussion if there are more queries from the audience. The reference to waterways, that your focus on waterways, I think is appropriate, because in Nepal, the debate on waterways, or the focus on waterways, has actually begun from the political leadership. And the rest of civil society, academia, is actually rushing to understand this arena. So your presentation is very useful in that context as well, Mr. Bandyopadhyay. Now from waterways, let's go to railways. I ask Mr. Wang Liji to make your presentation, please. Yes.
Morning. Namaste in Nepal. Namaste. Now, Honorable Minister and the Honorable Mr. Dikshi, thank you very much for your invitation for the Nepal Investment Summit. And I wish it's a successful summit. And at first, the Honorable Minister, I'd have a proposal. Now the summit is 2 years once. So I suppose we can take it 1 year, each year one. And also I propose the summit can not only in Nepal, also to other countries, also shift to the other countries. This is my first proposal for the summit. And within several minutes, in a short time, I'd have a very short introduction of the company, and we are looking for the opportunities of investment here and what I'm thinking. Okay, thank you. So I'm from China Railway Group Limited, CREC. China Railway Group Limited is the second largest company globally, and it owns 300,000 employees, and the turnover is more than 100 billion US dollar. And in China, 70% of the railways built by our company, and also 60% of the metro lines, the urban metro lines built by our company. In the past years, already we completed totally the bridges 19,000 kilometers, and the tunnels 17,000 kilometers, and highways 16,000 kilometers. Globally, now we are in the list ranked 56th in Fortune 500, and CREC was ranked second in ENR's 2018 top 250 global contractors. And for the famous railway construction like Sinolao from China to Laos to Asia, and also another line is in Indonesia, the Jakarta to Bandung project. And both of these two projects are funded by our company and constructed as the leader contractor of our company. And now also we are pursuing the connection lines from China to Myanmar, China to Nepal, China to Kyrgyzstan, and China to Kazakhstan. This is the belt and the road construction. We are doing this. In Nepal, CREC also is a famous company. We are doing the Baribabi tunnel project in northern Nepal. And this project is constructed very smoothly, and it will be complete next week. That project is before the progress, 8 months before the progress, and with high quality. Now we are pursuing several opportunities for the investment in Nepal. For example, we have the capability of the railway construction, including the railway design and the railway design of construction and operation, and also the metro and the light railway and the BRT also. Now we are studying the opportunities. And also we have the capabilities for the tunnel construction. We will do more hydro stations also. And also we have the capabilities for the PPP road, the toll road. And now we are talking with the government departments. So hope Nepal will be, in the very short future, will be more progress, and hope more companies come to Nepal to do the investment here. So I agreed with the name is Prosperous Nepal. happy Nepali. And also in China we have a proverb: if you want to be rich, first you should build the road. It's I hope successful Nepal. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Wang, for also remaining within time. I will throw out a question for the discussion period. If anybody would like to take this up. You see, Nepal now is also opened up to the north. The infrastructure is still being built, but in relation to railways, Mr. Wang, the Qinghai Railway, Qinghai Tibet Railway arrived in Lhasa in 2002 and in Shigatse in 2006. Firstly, let me mention to you that Shigatse as a name is a Nepali name from the Newari language, which means 10 houses. So Shigatse, Nepal also has close affiliation to Shigatse for the very name, because of the Nepali traders that used to set up shop in Shigatse.
Yeah.
But the question I have is, how much advantage will Nepal have for the carriage of rail goods by rail, up to the border point, even if we don't speak about railway into Nepal, but even to the border point? How much advantage will that be vis-a-vis bringing goods by the ocean to Calcutta or Visakhapatnam or Mongla or Chittagong? This is a question that I won't ask you to answer right now, but we could discuss this, because so much of Nepal's economy in the future depends on the viability of rail transport through Tibet. Is it viable, or it is mainly a strategic railroad? This is the question. Would you like to answer this now, or shall we pick it up later?
Okay, thank you.
Later.
Thank you.
Later then.
About the railway links between China and Nepal, this is a good dream. Good dream for Nepal, also good dream for Chinese. Because in the many years ago, our former chairman Mao, and he said this is a dream to link the railway to Nepal. But now the dream is coming, and not only linked to Kathmandu, also we hope it linked to Pokhara, linked to Lumbini, and also linked to India. Because the belt and the road and belt and the road proposal is openly to all the organizations, or openly to all the countries, not only China and Nepal, also India, also the World Bank, also ADB, like this. And for this railway from, Mr. Dixie said already the railway already connected to Lhasa and Rikaze. But from Rikaze to Kathmandu, now we are doing the feasibility study. Okay. So we hope it can be done by both the Nepal government and the Chinese government. With their help, the work can be done very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I was also trying to use up your 7 minutes. Thank you very much for this very important contribution. I guess my question also has to do with the per tonnage transportation costs of goods, vis-a-vis by ocean and then overland to Kathmandu from the south, vis-a-vis from the Chinese mainland to the Nepali port of call on the northern side of our border. We'll come to that later if anybody is interested on this subject. May I now go to Mr. He Zhenwei, Secretary General of the China Overseas Development Association, CODA. Sir.
尊敬的尼泊尔基础设施和交通部的部长阁下，尊敬的主持人，各位来宾，女士们、先生们，大家上午好。
Dear Your Excellency, Mr. Minister, and dear all the guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning.
首先我必须跟主持人也提个小小的要求，因为刚才主持人谈到了每个人只能讲7分钟，但是很遗憾，我不能像我们中铁王总那样讲一口流利的英语。 尽管我的俄语很不错，所以说我必须由我的助理来担任翻译，所以我申请我的这个讲话能够给14分钟。
Well, first of all, I would like to have a request that, as the moderator said, each speaker will have 7 minutes time to give a speech. And because I don't speak English, unfortunately, so I have to be interpreted by my assistant. So may I have more time, like double?
这次来尼
I
泊尔
would give you 10 minutes maximum, sir. Thank
10
you.
分钟，10分钟。
，OK。
Thank you very much.
这次来尼泊尔呢，是我第一次来尼泊尔访问，这个也是受我们中国国家发展改革委员会的委托，特地来参加这次投资峰会。
This is my first time to come to visit Nepal, and we were designated by our National Development and Reform Commission to organize a delegation of Chinese companies to participate this summit.
所以我们中国产业还有发展协会特意邀请中国的一些企业，对尼泊尔投资感兴趣的企业，特别是我们的一些央企，像包括中国中铁，也包括三峡集团，也包括中铁建，也包括这个我们的葛洲坝集团，还有我们的一些地方的民营企业，他们都对尼泊尔投资很感兴趣，所以这次来参加这个峰会。
So we organized a delegation, including some state-owned companies of China, such as CREC, CRCC, and China Gezhouba Group, as also some famous private companies. We organized a delegation come.
那么昨天上午我们参加了整个全体的大会，给我最深的一个感受，也是让我感到很惊讶的是，我们这次投资峰会吸引了这么多的来自于全球各地的参会代表，以至于我们的会场很多人都在站着，这种情况非常的好。其实我们也经常办过很多的活动，如果我们的投资峰会每次都能够吸引这么多人来参与的话，这本身就证明我们尼泊尔是 充满着投资机遇、投资机会的。
Yesterday morning, we attended the opening and plenary. We were so surprised that there were so many delegates from all over the world come to attend the summit. So we can see that there's a lot of investment opportunities and potentials for those investors.
昨天利用一些这个时间，我们还是到尼泊尔、到加德满都城市转了一下，感觉到基础设施的确是非常的薄弱。但是从另一方面来说的话，基础设施薄弱，证明它的投资的机会也是蛮大的。
Yesterday at noon, actually we get out for a little tour about Kathmandu, and we felt that Kathmandu has a really poor infrastructure at this moment, so we can see that there's a large space to improve.
那么在中国，大家知道，我们习近平主席提出来“一带一路”的倡议，现在已经是第6年头了。那么在“一带一路”的倡议里边，其中有我们提出来5通，这里边包括政策的沟通，也包括基础设施的联通，还有包括我们的货币的 融通，也包括我们金融的融通，还有货币的贸易的畅通，还有民心的沟通。在这里面，其实基础设施的这个联通是非常重要的。
I think everybody knows that in China we have the Belt and Road Initiative, and our president, Mr. Xi, proposed that including 5 aspects of that are the communication and the connectivity of policy and policy, infrastructure, finance, people, and trade.
那么大家知道中国改革开放40年，去年是40年。那么在中国，其实我们今天来看到中国的高速公路四通八达，但是我们知道在40年前，中国面临的情况和尼泊尔今天没有什么太大的区别。
We also know that China has experienced a 40 years opening up and reform. Actually, before the 14 years ago, we were the same with Nepal right now.
记得当时我们改革开放初期的时候，中国人提出了一句话，叫“要致富，先修路”。
I still remember at the very beginning of our opening up and reform, all the Chinese people said that if you want to get rich, you should build the road first.
所以政府当时制定了很多的优惠的政策，我们当时主要吸引来自于亚洲开发银行、来自于世界银行的这个国外政府贷款的投资。
So at that time, our government released a lot of incentives and preferential policies to invest the foreign capitals and foreign investment, such as from the Asian Bank and the World Bank.
但是我们采取了非常有用的一个政策，就是我们要采取收费，这个一定要允许这个建这个高速公路一定要去收费，然后我们通过收费来偿还我们的贷款。
And there's a very practical one of the policy, that is we used the charged road. We charged for the people who passed the high speed road, and we repay the debt by it. Yeah.
所以说，如果当时中国政府也很穷，也没有钱，如果完全只让政府来投资的话，这个基本上是没有可能的。通过这样的一种可以去收费，通过去凡是让使用者来先进行一个投入，然后开始通过收费偿还贷款，这种方式是非常可行的。今天的中国的高速公路的确发展起来。
So at that time, the Chinese government were also quite poor and has no money to invest in the infrastructure. So taking use of the charged road is a good way to make it, practical and implement it well.
那么很显然一点，马上最后
We
一句
have
话
2 minutes with
好，
apologies.
最后，那么很显然一点的话，我们这个基础设施，我想在这边说一个观点，就是说，它不仅仅是为了修一条高速公路，也不仅仅是为了建设一个机场，而重要的是通过这样的基础设施建设，带动了工业化的一个发展。这样，比如说在尼泊尔，我们建一个机场，还是建一个高速公路，你可以带动整个建筑材料的这个工业的发展。这样的话，对尼泊尔的工业体系建设是非常重要的。
I want to emphasize one point, that is, it's not only to build a road or build an airport. Actually, it can also bring and improve the industrialization of Nepal. For example, it can also give good opportunities for the construction materials sector.
所以最后我就想说一句话，我们要充满信心。只要我们政府制定非常良好的政策，只要我们得到我们整个中国这个外国投资者的一个支持的话，我们尼泊尔的这个基础设施建设的话，应该是大有希望的。
So,
谢谢。
at last, I want to say that we must confident with our infrastructure, as long as the government could release some good incentives and policies, and we can attract investors and foreign investors, we will improve our infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. He. Now we will move on from institutions to the private sector, because if we are talking about investments in infrastructure, particularly road infrastructure in this context, then we will obviously have to listen to what the private sector has to say. And I think in our panel here, the person who could be called absolutely private sector is Mr. Salah Sharaf. So may I give you the mic, sir?
Honorable Minister, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it's indeed a pleasure to be here at the Investment Summit in Nepal and to see the international community participating, which shows the confidence in the investment in Nepal. I'm going to go into the basics of logistics, as a lot of people might not understand what is logistics and what is the infrastructure. So I'm not going to talk about advanced logistics, but it's going to be simple and easy. So I need to grab the attention of the people, and this is short time of period to understand what actually logistics is and what can be achieved. So everyone knows the phrase, time is money. And in logistics, this is the most important two words, time and money. Because if we look at the logistics, the efficiencies are always done in the time. That's the first point. And the second efficiency is done in the money. So since, if we go back to the beginning of the civilization, when human civilization started, if everyone can close his eyes for a moment and imagine there is 2 points, point A and point B, in a straight line, and between these points are the movement, whether it's humans, whether it's cargo, whether it's passengers. It goes straight, smooth, simple, and easy. So hundreds of years ago, trade was moving easy between city pairs, between countries, and then later on in the new era which we are in today, the movement has been faster, but the regulations have been bigger between the cities or between the countries. So the dots have become circles and the line has become shorter. So we have achieved the movement by shortening the time. But when we come to the cities, this is where we face these challenges today. Let me also say that the infrastructure, as we have heard also earlier today, the infrastructure is the main pillar and the backbone for any economy. If there is no infrastructure, whether it is air infrastructure, whether it is sea infrastructure, whether it is road infrastructure, whether it is rail infrastructure, if infrastructure does not exist, economies will not exist. Then we have the rules and the regulations. Let me state the rules and the regulations. I come from Dubai, and the Prime Minister, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid, recently he mentioned his 10 commandments of governance. I'm just going to mention 2 of these commandments. And this is, I quote, his first commandment, which says, the purpose of government is to serve the people. And the purpose of a government job is to serve the community. And the purpose of laws and regulations is to serve the humans. And his last commandment, or last point, the 10th point, he says, we are lucky because we work in governments. And our job is the best thing in life. With it, we change lives of millions for better. So let me ask a question here. Why has Dubai become successful, and how it has changed the lives of millions of people who are living there? And this attribute goes to the father of our current Prime Minister, Sheikh Mohammed, the late Sheikh Rashid bin Saeed Al Maktoum. In the 1960s, when Dubai was just a small town, he ensured that the 2 important places were built, and the investment was built in these infrastructure. The first was the airport, and the second is the port. He removed all the rules, removed all the regulations, and made it easy and welcomed everyone to come. And after 50 years from 1960, today we see what the success is there. So Dubai has grown today because of the ease of doing business. So in logistics, it's always important that the ease of doing business is the main thing where attracts investors to come into any nation or any country. And we are, I can say that we are very proud that we have committed to invest in Nepal, and we have seen the positive response from the various government authorities, and we believe that Nepal, the opportunities in the infrastructure will grow, and we'll see that country will be growing. As we heard here today earlier, it's not a landlocked country, it's a land-linked country, and it can become, whether it can become the Singapore of the region, it can become the Switzerland of the region, Nepal can become that, economy which will be the center focus point. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pala. The touchstone, as you mentioned, is ease of doing business, besides infrastructure, of course. And in this full spectrum of ease of doing business is linked through many, many parts of the spectrum to the first point, which is political stability. And all Nepalis who hope for incredible growth, that our geography and our climate, our placement, our location, our people, all of that comes together. The one thing that seems to be missing to move towards the touchstone of ease of doing business is political stability. So that's the hope. And not just political stability, but political stability in the case of Nepal in a democratic setup. So this is where I think Nepal is trying very hard to move towards, which is also the reason for this summit here. May I now move then to Mr. Andreas Kramer, who is with an arm of the KFW, an agency that Nepalis know well, arm known as the DEG. You have 7 minutes, sir.
Yes, thank you very much. The Honorable Minister, Secretary, Mr. Dixit, value panelists, it's an honor for me to speak here today. I arrived in Nepal yesterday, and I had the opportunity to talk to many entrepreneurs, people from banks, government officials, and my reflection of the last day and a half is there's quite a vibe going on in Nepal these days. It's impressive. It's really, really nice. And I want to touch on a few things that the panelists already mentioned that I also think are important one way or the other. So to support my colleague from the private business, as you rightly mentioned, DG is the private sector part of the KFW Banking Group. KFW Banking Group, together with other organizations of Germany, are well known in Nepal, providing relief after the earthquake, or also spending money in the public sector in Nepal. But right now, and that's the reason why also DG is sending a representative to this summit, is how to unlock private capital, how to really make it real that there is this consensus of the government to unlock foreign direct investment into this country. Because what was rightly said by the panel, yes, there is money coming in, and necessarily money from ADB and the World Bank to do a lot of necessary things here. But to really lift Nepal and the infrastructure investments that are necessary to the next level, the only way to really do that is to set up ease of business, a framework where foreign investors have the confidence to come into this country and to invest with their private capital into good projects. And that is what DG can facilitate. I am responsible for infrastructure, energy for the regions Europe, Asia, Middle East. across all different sectors of infrastructure. So I have a very good picture, understanding of different setups, different frameworks across different countries in this region. And there are good examples where Nepal can also look at and say, why did countries succeed in doing the way of business they are doing, same as in the Middle East. So Nepal does not have to invent the wheel again. A lot of people already did that for you. So look across the borders and look what is necessary to really facilitate bringing private capital into this country. And DG is active in financing one of the hydro projects already with private capital. We're providing a senior loan to Loa Sulu, which will hopefully be COD'd by the end of this year, maybe beginning of next year. Similar, we're looking at another hydro opportunity, also providing financing. So the point is, it is really possible to access private capital. DG really wants to play a role there, and not only in the infrastructure place, but one other very important thing is, hopefully there will not be a credit crunch in Nepal. So DG is also, and other DFIs and IFIs are in the position to provide also financing to the banking sector. So that also goes hand in hand. It is very important, in order to lift Nepal to the next level, is to facilitate foreign direct investments. The question I have, the wish I would ask the government is really set up a framework where people would have the money to invest and also to mobilize more private business, that they feel comfortable in certain challenges. So one challenge, of course, is foreign exchange rate. But again, there are possibilities to overcome those challenges. So in terms of traffic, one risk that lenders usually don't like to take is traffic risk. So let's work on a framework where there are capacity-based schemes that help private investors to overcome this. Let's try to shift risks where they belong. Some shifts have to be borne by equity and sponsors. Some shifts can be taken by senior lenders. And for some things, government has to step in and to provide the right framework. So everybody has to work hand in hand. And again, coming back to my opening remarks, I really believe that Nepal is on the brink of going somewhere. Over the last 2 years, a lot of things for the better in Nepal have changed. And let's all work together on this and continue on those paths. And DG, KfW Banking Group is very much committed to provide financing to Nepal. That is the reason why we're here. I'm happy to talk to anybody of you looking for good projects that we can provide private funding to. So thank you for having me.
That is music to the ears indeed. And I do hope that people take up this offer, not only from Mr. Kramer, but others in this panel, to discuss investment opportunities in infrastructure, which is, of course, the primary requirement. But beyond that, ease of doing business, political stability, all come into play. Before I open the floor, let me bring before you one term that has not been used that much in this summit thus far. It's the term remittance. Nepal, for now, is in my view, as a journalist, a remittance economy. We would like to convert into essentially a economy that actually raises employment levels to such a degree that we do not need Nepalese to go by the millions to Malaysia, to India, to the Gulf, to send back money to keep our economy afloat. This is if I might use the term, the embarrassment and the shame of Nepal, that we have a country with such possibilities, but we have not been able to organize our society enough so that something that has been a historic fact, that Nepalis leave their hills and plains, their homesteads, to go work elsewhere, and the economic pain and the cultural pain and the personal cost of that is something that we also need to keep in mind when we think of investment. That what do we do? Investment, economic growth, equity, leading towards the fact that Nepalis don't have to leave their home and hearth when the country itself is so full of potential, which is essentially then is the topic of our summit yesterday and today. We have about 10 minutes, unfortunately. Might I suggest that till now we've talked about the possibilities. There are enough individuals in the audience who could tell us about the challenges in converting those possibilities into reality. So I'll ask if there are any questions or comments, very, very brief because time is short, but to focus on this aspect, the challenges of converting the possibility of investment into reality in this country known as Nepal. Floor is open. Yes, over in the front, Mike, sir. Please introduce yourself, sir.
I'm Devesh Kumar. I'm representing a company in Myanmar as Chief Operating Officer. My question to the panel is that what is the limit of equity participation in various sectors?
In Nepal?
Yes.
I think
and one more question, that what is the ease of entry and exit?
Ease of entry and exit. Yeah. I think that would be best addressed to the gentleman from Nepal. Gopa Sigdel response garna milcha ki yo kura, because the other panelists are elsewhere. The question was, what is the equity kati halna milne namilne? Ek, arko chahi ni ease of taking out profits. Am I right?
Like to exit.
Yeah, also to exit, to close up shop and exit. त्यसमा चाहिँ नि के छ? Mike ma.
Thanks very much. Actually, the equity proportion is up to 30%. 30% in infrastructure sector, and repatriation is up to 100%. Up to 100% was in foreign direct investment, which I have already expressed in my presentation also as well.
And about not just repatriating profits, but if you want to shut down your operation and leave, what are the complications in this country?
That should be, I think, that should be well expressed in the negotiation or the document which the government provide.
Okay. I think it's an important point and we could discuss this further, but at least you have flagged it for now, and thank you, Mr. Sigdel. Eta pachadi, uta. Mr. Moto, eta. Bhai. Oh bhai, uta hernu paryo yaar, uta.
I think that in Nepal we have 100% equity.
Please introduce yourself.
My name is Upendra Mahato. I am one of the investor also in Nepal. In Nepal, except telecommunication, there is up to 80% equity. In other infrastructures, 100% equity is allowed, and repatriation is no problem, either dividend or selling of the assets and equity.
What about exit, sir?
No problem.
No problem. Okay.
100%.
Thank you for coming into the conversation. Any other questions, sir? Especially, okay, in the back over there.
My name is Prakash Pon. I'm from Hong Kong. I'm representing Hong Kong Nepalese Business Association, and I'm a member of NRNA. I don't have a question, but I have a suggestion to the government. I believe Mr. Secretary already provided the information which we have gone through. According to the information, which seems very practical and hardworking, but in fact, as Nepali, as a member of NRNA, what we are feeling is the government has to take serious initiation on the policy backing level, especially developed country. We've been living in a developed country like Hong Kong and the UK. How those countries are developed, we have a practical experience over there. Being a involvement of construction, infrastructure development in Hong Kong, and compared to Nepal's infrastructure development, the difference is government have a proper planning, proper engineering process, procurement process, and then construction capability. The way country is suffering every year by landslide, flooding, and earthquake, it is very important to take an initiative by the government to rectify those things. For an example, I just want to give a suggestion that my experience, because we didn't have a chance to be in a panelist at the moment, but I just want to give a suggestion to the government. If the government can take an initiative on that area, then especially planning.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, brother.
Prakashji, thank you. For the audience who's not from Nepal, the NRN is an organization of overseas Nepali who are very keen to support Nepal's own efforts towards growth, economic growth, and through investment in this particular instance. So thank you, Prakashji, for your suggestions. And the Minister Mahasid himself is present, so I'm sure your points are well taken. There's I think probably the second last question over here. Etad bhai. Second row, third row.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Lal Kesi, student of infrastructure sector. My few suggestion is, since we have so many participants, experts, and contractors, developers, builders coming from different countries in Nepal, the best would have been, for example, in case of railway, we have a DPR done from east to west, and those documents would have been marketed well before the summit, so that our investor, prospective parties could have gone through it and could have signed the MOU. Hopefully, at least not 1,300 kilometers, but would have been part of it, section of it. That's the first. Second, since we are talking about PPP, BOT, and north-south corridors of roads, which can be considered as a transit corridor for China to India via Nepal. And those projects also would have been prepared beforehand, so that the discussions could be much more fruitful and result-oriented. Third one, and lastly, like we have fast track, Kathmandu to Nizhgard, linking for international airport. That road is under construction. And that would have been much more better if it would have been done it under PPM or PPP model. So anyway, the road has been under construction. How it is going to be utilized in the context of Nepal, and also a part of our modern infrastructures to uplift the economy, is still grey. So I suggest government to look through how it is going to be utilized, whether it's a toll road or whether it is just a free service road, or how it is going to be utilized, and what is the impact for development of Nepal in that corridor. For that matter, setting up industries or race recreation or whatever is there. So I suggest that it should have been much more fruitful if the homework would have been done much earlier and the information would have been disseminated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very important point made by you, Mr. Casey. Utta pachadi log the mic. Utta pachadi, and that's the last question, right at the back. Mr. Casey, the point you made, I think, is also a well-put criticism of our effort to go through the motions of an investment summit, but it is also important to have everything ready and proper. I think that is a criticism a suggestion that the Investment Board of Nepal will doubtless take from you. Thank you. Last question, please.
Yes, I am Komal Nath Atre from Nepal Electricity Authority. My question regarding about the electric railway connectivity from the Tibet to Kathmandu. Because I am a project manager for the high voltage transmission line from Nepal Electricity side. Because I have seen the estimates about I have surprised, because I have done the transmission line estimate from my project, but I have seen about the feasibility study of this railway connectivity, which is Kerunga and Kathmandu, that is Kathmandu connectivity. Does Nepali engineers also involved in the costing? Because its cost is very high, and how the BRI cost to Nepal will import such high cost? Because in my feasibility study, I have discussed with Chinese part, which state grid about the cross-border transmission line, it is not so high, but your costing is very, very high. It is a project cost or feasibility cost? I am surprising. I am asking to Chinese person and the Nepali person who has involved in this project.
The costing is given where? Where is the costing?
Which cost comes in for the feasibility cost and total project cost? But how Nepal government will, it will be profitable and it will thinks this cost comes in the scenario. Because this cost shows is a feasibility cost which proposed 2 weeks ago, like a project cost, no? And therefore, I am saying that how this cost is materialized and it is only done by the Chinese person or somehow Nepali engineers also involved in the costing portion.
Okay, anybody in the panel that would like to take this up? Because I am at a loss as to exactly whose responsibility it is to make the response. Mr. Wang? I think it's a specific point about the high project costs. Mantriji le isko bare mein ke tha sir? Bataun milcha? The minister, honorable minister will speak.
Thank you for your questions. Actually, up to now, we have not completed the DPR, just completed the pre-feasibility study survey. So, we hope the tentative cost of Kathmandu-Kerung railway is near about 3 billion, more than 3 billion, not 3 billion. Yeah, near about 3 billion US dollar. Tentative cost up to now. So, within the 6 months, we are going to do the DPR. In this coming in first week of April, maybe we are going to discussion about the DPR modality. Up to now, you are not complete the DPR, so we can't say about the actual construction cost. Thank you.
Mantriji, since we are coming towards the end of the session and since you already have the mic, so I would just make a couple of remarks. I wish there were more time because there is such an important panel before us and we have barely scratched the surface of this important topic. So I would suggest that rather than go back to the
railway को बारेमा पनि अलिकति भन्दिउँ कि उहाँहरुलाई जुन
ठीक छ
DPR को बारेमा
यसपछि चाहिँ नि क्लोजिङ रिमार्क्स
त्यसपछि क्लोजिङ रिमार्क्स दिन्छु
मैले चाहिँ अहिले नै गर्नुहुन्छ
And regarding the east west standard gauge railways, we have already completed the DPR. The total length of the east west railway is near about 1100 kilometers in standard gauge, and we are already complete the pre-feasibility study survey of Kathmandu-Kerung railways connectivity and Kathmandu-Birganj, I mean Roxol, and within the year, not within the 6 months, within the year, we hope we will complete both DPR, Kathmandu-Kerung and Kathmandu-Roxol. And we are already going to start the pre-feasibility survey from Kathmandu to Pokhara and Mungling to Lumbini. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. I was about to say that there are so many topics and questions that are in my mind as well that I would love to ask the gentlemen. Unfortunately, it's only a panel of gentlemen, but that will hopefully change in the years ahead. One question, for example, is about the gauge. The standard gauge being used south of the border and the gauge being used north of the border, which apparently is the one that is used most around the world. Are these issues taken into account? Is there enough public discourse and debate in Nepal on issues that are very important for our long-term future. I think what this discussion has just done is got us started as a catalyst to move ahead with further discussion, including questions such as put by Mr. Atre or Mr. Casey here. I think the topic was so vast that it was not possible to be like on a round table to discuss every topic in depth, but as I said, this is it's an opening, and you could also catch the individual panelists out at the coffee session. I will end, before handing over for the closing remarks by the Honorable Minister, I'll end with only 2 points of my own, which again I will seek answers in future from the gentlemen in the podium and elsewhere. One is, these are indeed transformative moments, not just within Nepal, but in terms of connectivity north to south. The arrival of the railway, the Xinjiang-Tibet, the Qinghai-Tibet railway, could be a game changer, but we don't know yet. We know that the train has arrived in Shigatse, that it might come north of the border. What is the cost of carriage of goods, as I mentioned earlier, and how will that make a difference for Nepal's import vis-a-vis north from the ocean and from the north inland railways, not inland waterways in this sense. To me, this is the crux of the matter that should be discussed in Nepal. Number two, is Nepal being focused by the Chinese railway system, Mr. Wang, mainly for access to the Indian market? Nepal is a relatively small market. Nepal is also a relatively narrow country. The maximum width is 100 miles. Other places it's 70 to 80 miles. So, is Nepal going to be merely a way station for the economic interaction between the great global powers, in which case will Nepal only stay to collect the user fee, the transit fees? Is that what Nepal wants? Other kinds of questions. And finally, because I myself represent a public transport company called Saja Yatayat, might I put a question to the, not to be answered right now, but to the development banks represented in the panel? What does it take for development agencies to focus on immediate human distress? Kathmandu Valley today, every day, every morning, every afternoon, as you will see on the streets, there are millions of riders of buses, tempos, three-wheelers, micros, and where is the planning, where is the focus, where is the sensitivity in a way that will bring investment, if at all possible, in public transport, so that the public in the end benefits, because the whole idea of investment is ultimately upliftment of the public as a whole. These are questions that I will leave you with. May I now ask the Honorable Minister for his closing remarks, and I would hope that you would give the closing remarks from the lectern, please.
Namaste and very good morning. Respected moderator Mr. Dixit, Speaker Mr. Gopal Sigdel, Joint Secretary of Physical Infrastructure and Transport Ministry, all the panelists, all the participants, excellencies, media friends, and ladies and gentlemen. I sincerely appreciate the view expressed by all the panelists in this session. The political transition in the Nepal has already been managed. The main priority of the government is now prosperity and development. We are committed to graduate Nepal in the state developing country and in the state of middle income country by 2030. Transport is the prerequisite of the development of the all other sector and considered as the infrastructure of the infrastructure. So we are accordingly high priority and seeking for a great departure to the development of transport infrastructure. Roads, highway, railways, metro, monorail, and sky rail, waterways and air transport in the country, as well as to the development and develop the good connectivity with the neighboring country, as like India and China. Nepal is focusing on the development of the modern road transportations with the expressways and tunnel roads. In Nepal, we are preferring the tunnel roads. We are looking for modern technology in the transportation infrastructure development. Therefore, we welcome to the support of development partner as well as private investment to introduce to a state-of-the-art technology in the transport sector. Railway development within the country as well as connectivity to the China and India is another key priority of the government. We would like to grow manually and mutually along with our neighbors for infrastructure development. We want to take maximum benefit from the railway connectivity with our neighboring countries and hope that the private sector also collaborates with the government in the endeavor. We are also exploring alternative means of the connectivity with the development of waterways for connectivity Nepal to the other countries. Similarly, the government focus on the development and management of aviation sector through the partnership of public and private sector. We want to develop an excellent modality of PPP in this regards. We encourage private sector to explore way of partnering with the government on the development and manage the aviation sector. Transport infrastructure, highway, railways and waterways are under the Ministry of Physical Infrastructure and Transport. As the minister of this ministry, I am having conclusion with the development partners and private development or developer in many nations and international forum to develop and improve the transport infrastructure in this country to achieve the national target of the development. In addition, we are also giving priority to the government and by the government to develop the cable car as an alternative mode of transport in the touristic palace under the PPP models. The governments of Nepal is also planning to develop sustainable transport facility in the multi-modal basis, comprising air transports, roads, railway and waterways for the long distance and to the integrated transport facilities comprising metro rail transit and bus rapid transit for the urban mobility. We are also in the process of increasing electrical model of mobility and sustainable transport by the developing electrified railway and electric vehicles as predicted in the 2030. In this regard, we are looking for an alternative financing mechanism beside the traditional public investment and public funding. We promote private investment in the development and the operation of roads and railways. I would like to welcome you to utilize this opportunity in Nepal because we are open the door for investment. Just I heard about a few minutes previous regarding the utilities, regarding the equity. Dr. Upendra Mahato already explained these things, but it is right because in only telecom sector, the equity, the ratio of equity is 80-20. 84 foreign investors, or I mean investors, and 24 local partners. And except this telecom sector, there are in any industrial roads, etc., the 100% equity. I would like to assure that the government is committed to creating more conducive atmosphere by improving the policy and law of the growth of infrastructure development in Nepal. We are introducing new policy to attract foreign direct investment in the Nepal in the form of public-private partnership, I mean PPP. I believe that all the discussion including this session were extremely valuable for the government. The summit provided a wonderful opportunity for all of us to come together and discuss infrastructure development opportunity in Nepal. I thank moderator, speaker, and panelists for their important view expressed in these sessions. I sincerely appreciate the organizer for creating such a platform and hope the discussion will continue in future. Having said that, I would like to inform that this session has been included here now. Thank you.
With the permission of the moderator, I head towards the final moments of this panel, ladies and gentlemen, and as the respected moderator just put it very right, that it's such a vast topic, industry, transport infrastructure. What we could do in this limited time was just throw a pebble in that huge pool and spark that food for thought. And moreover, one of the major objectives of this particular summit is also to bring together all the aspirant investors and also the stakeholder entities herein and create that right network such that we could build on all the deliberations that have surfaced at this very forum. So we believe this panel could meet both these two objectives, and we cannot do without thanking the panel for this very comprehensive and thought-provoking deliberations in front of us, and to extend our gratitude, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the organizing committee, I have the pleasure of inviting Mr. Suraj Vaidya, who is the member of the organizing committee, also the chairman of VOIF, a former FNCCI president, and also he's headed the Sarak Chamber of Commerce earlier. If I may have you on stage, sir, as we do the honors. First and foremost, we present this souvenir, a token of appreciation, to the session chair, the Honorable Minister for Fiscal Infrastructure and Transportation, Honorable Mr. Raghubir Mahaseth, for gracing this ceremony and for guiding us just right. To the session moderator, Mr. Kanakmani Dixit, Chairman, Sajha Yatayat Public Transport Company. Thank you, sir. Thank you indeed. With much gratitude to the presentator, Mr. Gopal Prasad Sigdel, Joint Secretary, Ministry of Fiscal Infrastructure and Transport. Mr. Gopal Prasad Sigdel. And to our distinguished panelist, Mr. Arnav Vandopadhyay, Lead Transport Specialist, the World Bank. Mr. Wang Leije, DGM China Railway International Group. Mr. He Zhenwei, Secretary General, China Overseas Development Association, CODA. Mr. Salah Sharaf, Director General, Sharaf Group. And finally, Mr. Andreas Kremer, Director, Energy Infrastructure, DEG. And as we thank the panel one more time, I request all of you to kindly step forward for a group photograph. And yes, a special thanks to the forum as well for your very important inputs and for your proactive participation. Ladies and gentlemen, this brings this panel on transport infrastructure to a conclude. We take a short break of about 10 to 15 minutes, and I request all of you to get back to this particular hall for the plenary. Next up is the plenary session on investing in Nepal, which is an experience sharing session. Thank you once again.